Exercise 2, fractions. There's a lot of vocabulary that you may or may not know. You for sure have heard it in the past, doesn't mean you remember it. And knowing vocabulary and being able to understand what questions ask on the ACT test is a big important part of doing well on the test. So fraction vocabulary, the numerator is the top number in a fraction. In this case, the fraction 2/3, 2 represents the numerator of the fraction. In that same fraction, the denominator is the bottom number, in that case 3. So 2 is the numerator, 3 is the denominator. Numerator is the top number, denominator is the bottom number. An improper fraction is a fraction in which the numerator is larger than the denominator. So 19/3 represents an improper fraction. Now, don't think of the word improper as meaning something is wrong with the fraction. There is nothing wrong with leaving a fraction written as an improper fraction. In fact, it's better at this point in your math career, in algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and so forth, to leave things as improper fractions rather than changing them into mixed numbers. Mixed number consists of a whole number and a fraction. 6 1/3 here is the equivalent to the improper fraction 19/3. So again, you could give your answer as either 19/3 or 6 1/3. And since everything we're going to do in here is multiple choice, you're going to know which format that your final answer needs to be in. Converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. On this today, I am only going to be able to show you on a graphing calculator how to do these things. On the TI-30 calculator, I'm not able to show it on this video, but I will be showing that in class. So again, the only thing I'm going to be able to show here is on the graphing calculator, and some of the stuff is actually more difficult to do on the graphing calculator than it is the TI-30s, but we will be going over that in class. Converting mixed numbers to improper fraction, 2 3/8. To do this by hand, we take the denominator, 8, times the whole number 2. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19, so we would get 19/8. 5 1/3, I would take the denominator 3 times the whole number 5. 3 times 5 is 15, plus the numerator is 16, and we would get 16/3. On the graphing calculator, take those same numbers, 2 3/8. Now, putting mixed numbers into the graphing calculator is a little bit more difficult to do. 2 3/8 means that we have 2 whole ones plus 3/8 additional. So we put it in just like that. 2 plus. Fractions we need to put in as a division problem. 2 plus 3/8, hit equals. The calculator will always give you the decimal. You can easily change that decimal to a fraction on the calculator by hitting the math key. First command underneath the math menu is change to fraction. Select that, hit enter, and there's the fraction of 19/8. Second one, 5 1/3. 5 plus the fraction 1/3. Hit enter, there's the decimal, math, change to fraction, hit enter, and there's the fraction 16/3. Converting improper fractions to mixed numbers, so now going the opposite way. Again, without a calculator, the thought process that you would be going through is how many times does 3 divide into 23? It goes 7 times. How many are left? 2. So we would get 7 2/3. 29/6. How many times does 6 divide into 29? 6 goes into 29 4 times. How many are left? 5. So we would get 4 5/6. The calculator. Put in your fraction, 23 divided by 3. That will give you the whole number. It means that it goes in 7 times. 3 times 7 then is 21. How many more does it take to get to 23? 2. That's how we would get 7 2/3. 29/6. Take 29, divide by 6. Goes in 4 times evenly. 4 times 6 is 24. How many more to get to 29? 5 more, so that's how we get the 5/6, so 4 5/6. Again, more difficult to do on the graphing calculator than it is the TI-30, which we will be going over in class. simplifying fractions. 24 over 36. When you simplify by hand, you are asking the question, what number divides evenly into both the numerator and the denominator? And you want to pick the biggest one possible. That's going to simplify it the quickest. If you pick smaller ones, you can still get there. You just need to keep going until there's nothing else that can be done. 12 goes into both 24 and 36. 12 goes into 24 twice. Goes into 36 3 times, so that's going to simplify to 2/3. And letter B, 42 over 16, is going to simplify to 21/8. On the calculator, 24 divided by 36. Again, the graphing calculator always gives you the decimal. Math, change to fraction. There's the fraction. 42 divided by 16. There's the decimal. Math, change to fraction. There's the fraction equivalent. When we do operations with fractions, we must have a common denominator anytime we are adding and subtracting fractions only. A common denominator is a number that is a multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. So again, you see the word multiple in there, which was a vocabulary word we had in exercise 1. So you're once again going to see these terms come up over and over and over again. So the better you get to know the vocabulary, the easier a lot of these problems are going to be. In order to add or subtract fractions, you must have the fractions written with common denominators. So you cannot add or subtract fractions in which the denominators do not match. You do not need common denominators when you multiply or divide fractions. We'll talk about all 4 operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The biggest thing to remember is you must only have a common denominator if you are adding or subtracting. Multiplying and dividing any 2 fractions, we can multiply together or divide no matter what the denominators look like. Adding fractions, once we have a common denominator, we're not going to get big into those rules that we just talked about right now, but when we introduce variables into our expressions, you will have to understand those rules better. But now if it's just numbers, we have calculators, use the calculator. When we have fractions with common denominators, as we do here, 2/9 plus 5/9, add the numerator, keep the denominator the same. Letter B, 3 2/5 plus 3/4 as a fraction is 83 over 20. If we change that to a mixed number, it would be 4 3/20. Let's look at those on the calculator. First one, 2/9 plus 5/9. 2/9 plus 5/9. Hit equals or enter. There's the decimal. Math, change to fraction, and there's our fraction of 7/9. 3 2/5 plus 3/4. Mixed number, 3 plus 2 divided by 5. There's 3 2/5. To that, we are adding 3/4. There's our decimal. Math, change to fraction, and there's our fraction of 83 over 20. Subtracting fractions. 7/9 minus 1/3 is 4/9. 4 minus 2 1/5 is 9/5, or 1 4/5. The form that answer would need to be expressed in, again, you would just need to match it up with whatever the multiple choice answer was. On the calculator, 7/9 minus 1/3. There's the decimal. Math, change to fraction. There's our fraction. 4 minus. Now here's where you need to be careful. When you put a mixed number in, you have to group the entire mixed number together. So we have 4 minus 2 plus 1/5 is our mixed number. equals the fractional part of the mixed number and the whole mixed number. Hit enter. There is our decimal, math, change to fraction, 9/5. Multiplying fractions. No easier in the calculator to do any of the 4 operations. If we didn't have a calculator, much easier to multiply than it is to add, because remember, we do not have to have a common denominator. Simply multiply straight across. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. Always give the answer in simplest form. This simplifies then to 2/5. In the calculator, it would automatically give you the simplest form. Letter B, multiply a mixed number times a fraction. Again, we're just going to plug this into the calculator. We get 20/9 or 2 2/9. Let's look at these on the calculator. 2/3 times 3/5. 2/3 times 3/5. Hit enter. Again, there's the decimal. There's the fraction 2/5. 2 2/3. We must again group the mixed number together. 2 plus 2/3 times 5/6. Math, change to fraction, and we get 20/9. Dividing fractions. Quickly going to talk about the rule here, but again, when there are only numbers, we do not need to worry about the rules because we have a calculator we can plug it into, but when we introduce variables later on, you're going to have to understand these rules. When we divide fractions, we change the division to a multiplication, take the reciprocal of the second fraction, multiply together. In that situation, we're going to get 6/15. Simplify, 6/15 is 2/5. 4 divided by 1 5/6. In the calculator, you would get 24/11, which is the same thing as 2 2/11. Let's look at those two on the calculator. 1/3 divided by 5/6. Hit enter. Math, change to fraction. There's our fractional solution. The second one, 4 divided by. Need to again put our entire mixed number, 1 5/6 in parentheses, so that order of operations are followed properly. Hit equals, math, change to fraction, and there's our fractional answer. Last one, pick the largest number from each group. All we're going to do here is convert everything to the equivalent decimal form here. Pick the biggest decimal and then correlate or relate that back to which fraction produced that decimal. So 2/5. Take 2 divided by 5 on your calculator, we get 0.4. 3/8. 3 divided by 8 on your calculator, 0.375. 0.35 obviously already is a decimal, and 1/3 is 0.3 repeating, so a bar over the 3. From here, pretty clearly we can see that the largest tenths position, which is that right behind the decimal point, is 4. 3 is the tenths position in all the others, so 4 is the biggest, and that is the fraction that produced by 2/5. Letter B, 1/6 is 0.16 repeating. 6 is the only digit repeating, so we only put a bar above the 6. 2/11, 0.18, the 1 and the 8 repeat, so we put a bar over each of them. 4/13, 0.307, plus some other stuff. We don't need to go out that far. And 3/14, 0.214, plus some other things. From here, again, if we just look at the tenths position, we have a 1, a 3, and a 2. 3 is the biggest. which was produced by that fraction, so 4/13 is our biggest fraction.